Hey guys, it's Julia here, and I'm back with another interesting video, which in this video, I have an iPad, which is actually in this keyboard case. Now, what iPad do I have to show you guys in this video, and why is it interesting? Well, you guys are about to find out. So, I'm gonna open up the iPad, which this is a magnetic thing, which is nice, and then there's a stand on the back. And as you guys can see, I have an iPad here, which doesn't appear to have any apps on it, because when I bought it, it just was like this. Now why? Well, this iPad was not connected to the internet, I don't think at all, and it couldn't download any of the apps. So I thought I'd show it in this state first before I actually, show what this video is about. However, we're going to hop into the settings here, and we are going to go to About. And one thing you'll notice is that the model number here starts with a 3. Why is that important? Well, when an iPad starts with the model 3, that means it was actually a former demo iPad. So this iPad used to be a demo iPad. It is an iPad 8th gen. However, this iPad was restored to be a normal iPad again. So it's no longer a demo unit and it could be used at its full functionality. Basically meaning that this iPad is fully functional as a normal iPad that anyone can use. Because, demo units only have the special model number and demo software. But they can be restored back into a normal iPad that can be used by anybody. Now, before I actually do what I'm going to do in this video, I do need to reset this iPad because I would rather, reset it. I don't like iPads that are just already set up. Plus, what if it's like, on an MDM or something and we don't know about it and that it's bypassed? So in order to figure that out, anytime you get any device from eBay, you should be resetting it. So transfer or reset iPad, erase all content and settings, because we want to reset this iPad so that way we can set it up like new, go into the setup, make sure there's no MDMs or weird things going on with it. This even goes with MacBooks you buy on eBay, because you might buy a MacBook, it's already set up and has a user, later you reset it and find out, oh, this was attached to a company before. I might want to reset it. Well, good news, there's no MDM on here. I was able to get through setup and everything's all good. I didn't sign into an Apple account yet because I'll probably just sign in the App Store so that way I can, download the apps I need for this video. But because if I go to About, we're on iOS 26.4.1, and that's not the latest version of iOS 26, we are going to update this iPad, and then we can actually start showing what I was going to show in the video. So iPadOS 26.5.2, let's update now, and I'll let this, do its thing, get it updated, maybe, get some apps on here and stuff like that, and then I'll come back and show the purpose of what we're doing. So I'm back the next day with this iPad, and now I'm going to talk about what the video is about. So in this video, I'm pretty much going to show how usable iOS 26 is on the worst iPad ever. Why is it the worst iPad ever? Well, this iPad does have an A12 CPU and only 32 gigs of storage, which if we actually go take a look at the storage here in a minute, you'll see that half of it's already used, which is barely enough to install many applications. And the other thing too is that iOS 26 is probably one of the buggiest versions of iOS right now, because there was a lot of complaints about 26 and how laggy it is and how buggy it is. And unfortunately, the iPad 8 is going to be stuck on iOS 26 because it is not getting iOS 27, which iOS 27 is mainly a bug fix update. However, this iPad unfortunately will not be able to get it. Therefore, it's going to be the worst iPad ever and super laggy. As you guys can see, we actually have less than 16 gigs free. We only have 12 gigs free. And with how large apps are nowadays, that's barely any storage. It's crazy to say how back then we thought 8 gigs wasn't a lot and 16, and now even 32 gigs is not a lot. And I remember back in the day being like, wow, 32 gigs is a lot of storage. Maybe for back then, but in 2026, absolutely not. Even sometimes 64 gigs is pushing it. I say at least have 128 or higher. So here it is, the iPad 8th generation, released in 2020. And despite this iPad being released in 2020, it looks very outdated because it has the same exact design as an iPad 5 from 2017, as well as the iPad Air from 2014. And as you guys will see here, the iPad is actually cracked, which, you know, I got it used on eBay, so what do you expect? However, to replace the screen, it actually would be cheaper because since the iPad has a laminated screen, the glass can be replaced and it would be a lot cheaper. Also, the base model iPad 8 didn't even have True Tone, as with other iPads with, you know, a similar CPU actually did, which makes this iPad even worse because the iPad mini 5th gen and the iPad Air 3 did have that. And going into the storage settings, you guys will see here that there's barely any space to work with. And keep in mind, this is before I installed any applications on this iPad. There's nothing on here. I'm barely going to be able to put anything on here without it saying, oh, the storage is full. So I am back and I did install some apps on here. As you can see, I just installed some random apps on here just so it can have some applications. Now, first impressions of this iPad, just scrolling around on the home screen, you could see that, I mean, it's not too slow. And there I'm dragging down like the control center and moving this around, and it's actually surprisingly, you know, not too bad. Like, it seems to be working and, you know, being functional so far. And here's all my apps right here. And I mean, opening stuff, as you can see now that I installed some applications, we jumped up to using 27 gigs out of 32 because I installed a ton of apps, and so many apps nowadays just use so much storage when before we were using, you know, less than that. But let's go to iPad storage, and you can see there now it says 26, but we only have 5 gigs free after installing pretty much all the apps that, you know, someone might use. Like, I installed all the, like, you know, streaming apps for, you know, watching movies and stuff like Netflix and Paramount and Disney Plus and all those apps. Even though I don't have them all, I just installed all the apps on here because, you know, what are people going to use iPads for? They're going to use it to watch media and stuff like that. But I will say, like, it does seem smooth, but if you look very closely, there is a little stutter that does happen. I don't know if the camera, like, picks it up, but it's not, like, super buttery smooth. There's a little bit of lag, but it's usable. It's acceptable, especially for how old this iPad is. It's definitely acceptable, and it is something that you can use, and, you know, you can open up folders and stuff like that, and it is actually pretty smooth. Really, the only main concern with this iPad is it looking old and also the storage. But so far, you know, first impressions of just, you know, moving around the interface, it's not horrible. So now let's actually get into trying to do, you know, everyday tasks with it and see how well those perform. So what are some everyday tasks that people do on iPads? Well, there's web browsing, which I opened up 10 tabs that we're gonna look at and browse and see how it performs. So we have the Apple website, as you can see first, and I'm just scrolling through Apple's website. You know, say we want to look at the iPad, for example. Oh, let's look at the iPad Pro, right? We want a new iPad, right? You can see that the page is fairly responsive. I mean, it does respond, as you can see, and we are able to scroll through. But let's see, now we're gonna go to Wikipedia, which I have to tap it a few times just for it to work, but okay, English, sure. Let's just click on something random here. I might have to actually search something. Actually, no, we do not. But now we're on Wikipedia. And you can see that it's actually, you know, pretty smooth. There's many things that you can, you know, access on here. But let's just skim through these. So here's Reddit. So now I'm just browsing Reddit on this iPad. And it's even playing videos and stuff. And it seems like it's pretty responsive, right? So far. But you could see if I, like, do this, it's kind of lagging a bit. Let's go to Amazon now. Say we want to browse Amazon for some products. You could see that it's already, like, lagging out just browsing on Amazon. This thing is really slow, right? And then we go over to eBay. our favorite website where I buy a lot of this stuff. And so far, I mean, it is responding. And say we want to go to Google. I mean, Google's pretty simple, and we can just Google iPad. I don't know. Just Google iPad. That's fine. And then we have Bing, which, again, we can just Google, like, for example, Apple. Let's Google for Apple. Yeah, it's a little slow, but not, like, entirely, and all that. And then what do we have here? We have the Google News for technology news. And I mean, I'm just scrolling through some of these news articles. I opened up one of them, but you can see that scrolling through the news isn't too bad, actually. Let's go to actually one of the news articles I clicked on, which is about iOS 27 public beta. And it's not even working. Like, I'm trying to scroll. You guys see this? I'm tapping the screen and it's frozen right now. The whole thing just locked up for me trying to scroll. And now it's starting to respond, but certain websites are not going to be the most friendly, but it also could be the fact we have 10 tabs open, which could also be a big part of it, but it's not a buttery smooth experience. Some websites will load fine. Some websites that have a lot more demanding stuff on them, maybe a lot of ads and stuff like that. As you can see, a lot of ads are popping up and it's locking up the whole iPad. So let's just go over to our next tab, which is Yahoo. I mean, no one really uses Yahoo anymore, but we might as well try to open it. Hello? I can't even tap it. Like, look at this. It's okay, there we go. Finally, we've loaded Yahoo, and it's just really slow. I can't even scroll. Like, I'm trying to scroll right now, and it's just, okay, did a tab just crash? Because I didn't close it, and it closed. Let's try opening a new tab and going to, like, YouTube. I know I do have the YouTube app on here, but I want to see if I can open up the YouTube website on this iPad, but it's not even looking like I can do that. So one thing I'll say about web browsing, even though yes, you can have a lot of tabs open, it's not recommended because it'll start lagging really bad when you have a lot of things open at once, and it's better to just use one thing at a time, honestly, or websites that are not very demanding, because when you get to one website that starts eating all your bandwidth, the whole iPad freezes. Like, I could probably I can't even push the home button. I'm pushing the home button. It's not responding. Like, you can see it's lagging out. I'm pushing home. You can hear me clicking it. Finally. Okay. Safari is not going to open again. I just froze the whole iPad, guys. I'm not even making this up. The whole iPad's frozen. Are you serious? Look at this. I can't pull the notification down. I can't pull this up. The whole iPad locked up. Okay. I guess I have to do a hard reset because, okay, maybe not. I just took a screenshot apparently. I did not want to do that. Why is it opening Apple again? It is still locking up. How am I supposed to use this? I'm force resetting it. This is like absurd. I can't do this. Like, the whole iPad, the whole thing locked up from having 10 tabs open, and I had to force restart the iPad. That's freaking wonderful. Okay, do not web browse with that much stuff open on an iPad 8th generation from 2020. Because you will have a very bad time. I feel like part of it's also because of iOS 26, because honestly, the performance of iOS 26 is just definitely worse. Like, it's usable, but it's definitely worse. And as you can see, I just started the iPad. It's responding again, but there is a little latency, obviously, with scrolling through. So I'm gonna stop with the web browsing. I don't want to reopen Safari and make it freak out again. I'm gonna be resetting this iPad when I'm done with this video. let's actually hop over to YouTube, which I have not opened the YouTube app, so it's probably gonna try to get me to like sign in and stuff, but I'm just gonna use it signed out. And let's torture this thing a bit. 8K video. Let's torture this iPad. Excuse me? Why is that ad so big? Let's see. I don't like the look of that one. Let's do the Miami 8K video. Okay, I had to skip the ad, but this is an 8K video, supposedly. And I'm gonna make it full screen because I'm gonna mute it as well. Let me do that. Okay, so now I'm playing an 8K video on the iPad because I wanna see how it can handle an 8K video. It might not even be playing in 8K. I do not know. So let's hop over here. No, it is not. Auto to 8060. Higher picture quality. What does that do? Okay, now we're at 1440p. I don't think this is actually 8K. However, is it stuttering? It's playing. If I click on this, the video is playing. And it seems like it's smooth, but this is 1440p. I want to get it to the 8K that this video is, but I don't know if it actually will get to that at all. Okay, so I found the quality settings. Let's bump that up, and I am gonna try to turn the music back up a little bit so we can hear the speakers, but hopefully it's not copyrighted. I don't think so. But it is playing, and surprisingly, for an 8K video, I'm actually surprised. I don't know if this is actually like in 8K or not. It's not letting me click it, but it is playing, and it seems like it's smooth too. I have it in full screen. I can get it out of full screen, but it seems like YouTube actually seems fine on it. It doesn't look like it's stuttering. It looks like it's playing at pretty good quality, which is very surprising because it lagged at just having Safari tabs, which I'm gonna mute this again because I don't want it to be a problem. But it is playing and it is working, and I'm not seeing any problems so far. However, if I leave this play a while, it will probably end up buffering or draining the battery very quickly on this iPad, which we'll take a look at the battery in a little bit because I've had this iPad on and haven't plugged it in. Since I've been working on this video the past few days, I haven't had to worry about charging it as much because this iPad does last a while if you just let it sit and idle and you're not actually using it. But I'm going to get out of YouTube and also close the Safari tabs or Safari thing out so that way we don't freeze up the iPad again. So one thing people may use iPads for is to take notes. Saying you're in school and you need to take notes. So, hi, this is a test note. Sure, why not? I cannot type well. So yeah, I obviously am not used to typing on this because it's a smaller keyboard and it's obviously, you know, I made mistakes and had a backspace and stuff like that. But if you got used to this keyboard, I would say it's definitely good for note-taking. I mean, this case is also really nice because, you know, it folds over like that and then you can just open it and then there we go, we have our notes. So, you know, it makes sense why schools would use these kinds of keyboards because, you know, the iPads are very portable. You have a full keyboard, which even though it doesn't have like the numpad, that's fine because it's, you know, it's a smaller iPad. But you have the numbers up here. And honestly, I would say for school, this would, you know, still work fine. I mean, it may not be the fastest at everything you do, and multitasking may not be the best, but I would definitely say that for school, this iPad would still be good because you wouldn't have to do probably that much stuff, you know, maybe take notes or do a couple, like if I downloaded like Google Docs or Google Slides or whatever, I'm sure it would work perfectly fine on here. I'm not going to do that because I'd have to sign in and stuff, but I would say as long as you're not pushing the iPad, because this does only have 3 gigs of RAM, I would say it's fine for, you know, basic use, as long as you're not pushing it too hard. Now, obviously, I have a couple games on here. Like, for example, this AA game. This is like one of the more simple games, so I thought, why not, do a simple game. This was actually a game that, I used to play back then, so ask it not to track. I'm not going to sign in. I'm just demonstrating it, and this game is one of those games where you just have to not, hit one of these things when you're putting them down. And you can see, because this is such a basic game, it runs perfectly fine. I mean, yeah, there's going to be ads on the bottom, but this game does work. It does play, and obviously it's going to get a lot faster as you keep going. I'm sure if I put more intensive games on here, it might struggle a bit, but basic games probably will run fine on here. Now, as you guys know, it does have a camera on the back. And people don't really use iPads for cameras. You can see it does have a camera, and it does work, and you can zoom in and stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't look bad. It's definitely all right. I could pick up like a remote and show the remote here. Obviously, on the iPad, it looks fine, and I'll overlay the picture right now for everybody else, and that's the camera quality. Anyways, here's a picture of the front camera and what it looks like. I just took a photo from that direction as well, so I'll include that too. I would say the camera is alright, it's good enough quality. It's not going to be super fancy. It's an iPad, but, Apple products do have good cameras in their devices usually, so it's definitely acceptable, I'd say, in this case. So I've had this iPad on for a few days, as you can see, and I've mainly used it for this video, and so far it says Maps has used 5 minutes of background, which is weird. I haven't even opened the app. I mean, it does say background, but I have never opened it on here, and yet it used some of my battery, which is a little bit annoying. And we have home and lock screen for 5 minutes, and that makes sense. And if I scroll through, I think this is just for the past day, though. I probably have to change it to, like, past time completely. Yeah, if I click view all, it just shows this, but we'd have to like click on days and see that YouTube used 9%, which is obviously we played an 8K video and notes, settings, and all that stuff. And then I'm gonna click on this. I'm surprised that I do not see Safari on here. That's kind of shocking, because I was, browsing the web on here, and it locked up the iPad. Maybe that's why, because I had to like force restart it because it locked it up maybe. But I mean, realistically, I would say the battery on here is actually not bad. Then again, we don't know how used it is. I will plug this into my Mac and look at coconut batteries. So here's a screenshot of like the battery health and everything. And if it's higher, that would make sense, because it's actually lasting long enough, I feel like, and it's definitely usable. I know if you watch YouTube for probably a few hours, the battery would die though, which is kind of expected. However, I'd say it's pretty good. I'm honestly overall impressed with this iPad, because I kind of expected it to be a little bit worse. But overall, for the conclusion of this video, this iPad has actually not been too bad. It's been able to handle pretty much every task fine, except for the many tabs I had. But that's just because this iPad does have 3 gigs of RAM. So overall, what is this iPad good for? I would definitely say, definitely good for like watching YouTube or Netflix or any other streaming service, because you saw that when I was running that 8K video, it didn't stutter. It actually was running well. Now, I don't know if that actually was 8K, but that was a pretty high resolution, and it seemed to be handling it well. And it's possible that that's the reason YouTube actually drained it so quickly, and maybe it would actually drain a lot less if I didn't have it bumped up that high. So I'd say the iPad 8th generation, still good for streaming, good for some light games, good for taking notes, and web browsing as long as you don't have 10 tabs open and you have a couple at a time. I'd say it was actually pretty responsive until we got to that news website. Also, if you're one of those people that likes to read ebooks, I would say this is actually a good option too, because the battery lasts a while, the screen still looks really good, and I think it'd be perfect for that. Also, obviously, checking your email and maybe some social medias would also be fine. However, things that this iPad is not good for, if you're doing a lot of multitasking on it, it's definitely going to struggle and start lagging, as you saw with, Safari. If you're going to video edit on your iPad, forget that. That's going to use way too much resources. If you play any heavy games, they might stutter. Also, the storage is awful, as you guys know, on this iPad, and we're already using pretty much all the storage, so the storage is also one of the bad things about this iPad. And also, do not get this iPad if you want it to last a while, because it's not good for future proofing, because this iPad is not going to get iOS 27 or anything like that. But, I mean, if you're able to pick up one of these for cheap and you don't, expect a lot from a tablet, I'd say go for it, because it's still usable and it probably still will support apps for a little while. Even after, iOS 27 comes out, Apple usually will support up to 3 years of app updates on an iOS version before they drop it. So you can still get some use out of this iPad. So is the iPad 8 usable in 2026? I would say yes. Yes, it is a bit slow at times. Yes, it doesn't have a lot of storage. And, iPadOS 26 isn't the greatest. However, if you're doing, some really light tasks like light web browsing, streaming, note-taking, etc., I would say still a good iPad to this day. And honestly, this held up a lot better than I ever expected. I thought this thing was gonna lag the whole time I did this video. And I'm actually quite impressed. So yeah, that is my overall conclusion of is the iPad 8 usable in 2026? And you guys can feel free to leave your comments and opinions down below. And if you own this iPad, feel free to comment down below as well. How usable is it for you? Do you plan on getting a new iPad soon? So anyways, that will wrap it up for this video. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I really did enjoy making this video and testing this iPad 8 to see how usable it was. And I have more videos coming soon. Anyways, I would like to thank my channel members, which are Apathio7, Aqua95, AquaHuskyWX, Ate Caro, Chris Garrett, Christian1739, Damon Mars, Dencorn, DJ1i28, Electronic Search 3.0, Gazelle Edge, Mike Rea, Overgreen, Cyclone, Railroad Buff, Rambos1234, Riley Burrell Tech, Suwon LEL, Strawtech8, Samira Yoshizawa, TDSTP, Zach's Tech Place, Ziggyos, and everyone else here on this list. I really appreciate you guys' support for being channel members. It really means a lot to me. I have a lot more exciting videos coming up, so stay tuned. And anyways, thank you guys so much. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. More videos coming soon. And bye-bye for now.